So last week I shared with you we're going to make a shawl with all the advent yarn that I got last year. So we've reversed it and we're starting with number 1 here at the top, all the way down, these beautiful Aurora Borealis colors. And for the shawl pattern I'm doing, I need 3 skeins of a more neutral color to kind of make those pop. So I picked this one. It's beautiful. It's from Hue Loco, and it's a merino DK, superwash merino, DK 4-ply, and each one of these is 100 grams, so I got 3 of these. It's in the colorway Marshmallow, and you'll see it just has a lot of these beautiful neutrals. I didn't want anything too one note though, so it's got like these nice, these nice browns going into creams with a little bit of speckle. So I would have called this mushroom, but it's called marshmallow. So very excited to get started on that project. But first we have to finish our Christmas blanket. I should probably show that to you. Let me go get that. Okay, it really doesn't fit in this container anymore. We are on the last stripe, home stretch, folks. Last stripe. And it's a really pretty stripe too. Look at that, that's really pretty. It goes down in, and then there's gonna be, we're gonna start on the white next and do these same stitches in white, but offset. So they'll be in between the holes. So that's really pretty. So that's the last stripe. And then I've got a few border rows. They did post the video for that, and I have plenty of yarn left over. So I think I'm just gonna start on that video and not wait for the kit. And we can get this finished so that we can start on the other one. Okay folks, so here we are on the very last stripe of the whole blanket. We still have to do the borders, but you know what I mean. So this is an interesting stitch. It's called the spike stitch. I'm really glad they waited on this one until the end because it's a little intense. But I wanted to show you what it looks like. It's very pretty. The back side's a little looser, but it turned out nice. So I'm going to show you how to do the stitch, which is going to require a stitch marker for every single one of them. So these are offset now. We've got this one below, this one above. So we're going to skip a stitch. We're going to put a stitch marker in the stitch after that, and then we got to do some counting here. So we're going to yarn over, and then we're going to count. This is our empty stitch, so we're going to go 1, 2 over, 1 down, put a hole in that, and then raise it up. Give yourself lots of room here, lots of tension, nice and loose. Yarn over again. We're going to go 1 over and 2 down into this hole, bring up the loop nice and tall, yarn over, go 3 down, right underneath that empty stitch, bring it up nice and tall, I'm going to yarn over, go 1 over and 2 down, kind of like making a little star here, and then yarn over and go 2 over, 1 down. And this stitch marker is really getting in the way here. You gotta like make sure you go around it there so it's not getting stuck in our stitches here. And then we're gonna yarn over, pull through all of those loops. So it's really hard to get the right amount of tension, but still have the room to pull that through. And then we're gonna do 1 stitch to close that. Now here's another hard part, is we got to take the stitch marker out, but we've got to get that hole right underneath it, so that's why we put the stitch marker in there, because you wouldn't be able to access that otherwise. And then we're going to do a single and then 4 more singles to get us to the right spot. So that's a little crazy of a stitch. I think, once you're done with it and you've maneuvered the blanket for a while, these will look a lot better than that. But yeah, It's just a very interesting stitch. I wanted to share that with you guys. So we are on the last stripe. I think I've got 3 more rows after I do this row. And then we will be done. And then we will start the border. And you know me, I can't follow any of my own rules. So of course, the next thing I want to do is ball up the yarn for the shawl project before I'm done with this, of course. So we'll ball up that yarn and get that ready to go. I might start, I know I've got 8 more bags to make and it's a 3-day weekend, but it's gonna be raining all weekend. And I think once I'm done with this row, everything's gonna go pretty fast from here on out. Unfortunately, the last row of the border is a reverse stitch like this. I don't know that I'm gonna do that. I don't know that I can put myself through a reverse stitch for the entire border of this blanket. So we might not be doing that, but we will see when I get there if I just want to be done with the whole thing or not. Yay! We are almost done with this blanket. It has been 11 months in the making. Last stitch of the last stripe. Yay! All done, except for obviously the border. But yay, that turned out really nice. So now the border is where we get to even up this little show going on and make it look better. Yay, I feel so accomplished. It's a milestone. Okay, so I'm hoping this is gonna work. I have trouble setting up my winding pole in places. So I'm hoping that it works on the little tray table here. Oh, and we can get this all set up. Maybe I'll do it on this side. Oh, there we go. So we're gonna ball up our Advent yarn. I was trying to figure out a way to do the little mini skeins and still retain their numbers, because I don't want to do them one at a time. So I think what I'm going to do is just clip the number onto the ball, like onto the end of the ball, and do it that way. I think we're going to start with the big one though. And I'm going to need a pair of scissors. Oh, I know I haven't finished the Christmas blanket yet, but if you only knew how much self-control it took to get to this point. It's a rainy day here in Southern California, and I think it's a 3-day weekend. I just wanted to get this project started now, so it's ready to go. I can also take it to work and crochet on my lunch break. So, that's another option. This is not gonna work with me sitting down, apparently. Get this on here. Whoa, raise it up a little bit. Oh, duh. Raise that whole thing up. And of course now I can't get out of the area to get the scissors. Okay. Alrighty. Whew. So yes, I have trouble trying to find the self-control to not start new projects. And I've wanted to start this ever since this yarn came in, because once this yarn came in, it became like a real project, you know? I'm going to try and do it a little looser than I normally ball up yarn because it's hand-dyed yarn and I'm not supposed to make this too tight. Yeah, it's nice. The only time I get to hear my wind chime is when it's blustery outside. So it's been nice listening to my wind chime this morning. And I think it's supposed to rain all weekend. Oh. Just hit the door. Oh man, I forgot to take my flag down. I gotta go take my flag down. It's just gonna get soaking wet this weekend. But what else was I gonna say? Oh, all the rain in California causing all the flooding and the sinkholes and everything. So, I mean, as desperately as we need rain in California, getting it all at once isn't good either. So I'm hoping this is going to be a nice wet spring, but also that it doesn't just come all at once, because that's damaging in and of itself. So I've been watching a new show, new to me YouTube channel, called How to Renovate a Chateau Without Killing Your Partner. I'll link it below. It's very cute. You know, an English lady and her French-German husband bought a chateau in France, and they're renovating it and renting out rooms, like a bed and breakfast kind of situation. He has a very weird sense of humor, so they're just fun to watch, and I'm kind of watching the back catalog this weekend as we do this. So I will be watching some YouTube as we ball this up. And then I'm going to be making a braised short rib recipe today in the Dutch oven. So I'll get that going. It's just about noon now, so after I eat lunch, I'll get that started so that can cook away for a couple of hours, and then make some mashed potatoes to go with it. So just a nice cozy dinner for this storm going on today. And then we just watched Glass Onion last night, which was very good. Yeah, I don't know. I liked Knives Out better, but this one was very cute as well. This one was more of like a setup, you know, all the possible killers are in one place kind of thing. So more of an Agatha Christie. This yarn is beautiful. I can't wait to work with it. It's just got these beautiful kind of mushroomy colors. This beige into gray, and then it has these speckles of brown in it. It's just not a color I would normally go for at all, but it's just such a nice neutral color that's not like a boring neutral. So I'm really excited to see what this looks like once we start making the shawl. And a day like today would be the perfect day to be wearing a shawl. I bought this in another color, so I've got two of these sweatshirts now. They're not like sweatshirt material, they're kind of like a crocheted sweater material, but they do have a hood. But they're very soft and a little more dressed up than a sweatshirt would be. Very, very thin, so not quite good for winter, and it'll definitely be something I wear in the spring. But it's just enough to put on when you're in the house and you don't want to turn the heat on, just to give yourself a little extra layer of warmth. Okay, let's fast forward this so we don't have another hour-long video this week. I'm sorry about that. I go on too long. I also saw another YouTube channel where she does kind of these video essays. I really like that idea, so I think I'm going to try that this year, doing a few video essays where I just pick a subject and just talk about it and what it means to me, and show footage and do like a voiceover. So those will be nice short videos for you. They won't replace these. You'll still get a studio video every week. But I was thinking that might be a nice way to handle any other random topics that I want to talk about on the channel that I don't really get to focus on as much as I would like. So I'm looking forward to that. I already have 9 topics written down, just like in a little brainstorming session. So I think that means that I'm supposed to be doing those. Well, I'm glad that this fits on my TV tray because that means I don't have to do it in the sewing room. I can watch a video while I'm doing this. So that's cool.
We keep on telling lies. That is how we stay alive. So you know that I don't mind about what is wrong and what is right. We keep moving in different rhythms. Still I know what you feel. We keep moving in different rhythms. Two different minds telling lies. That's how we stay alive. At least we try to survive. We're not the ones who hide. Two different minds. Oh, oh, oh. Two different minds. We're not the ones who hide. Two different minds. You know just what to say to make it all okay. 'Cause I am too blind to see when you're in front of me. We keep moving in different rhythms. Two different minds, telling lies. That's how we stay alive. At least we try to survive. We're not the ones who hide. Two different minds.
Oh man, lost the ball already. Okay, so we've got our first two rolled and this one rolled. I'm probably gonna just do a few at a time just because I don't want to lose track of them. The hard part now comes with the pattern instructions. So the hard thing with this pattern is that it's not made for minis, it's made for full skeins of yarn. So in her notes she's got, she actually has 3 colors here. She's got A, B, and C, and it's basically 325 yards of the A and the C, and the B would be the main color which we're using as our background, which is 650 yards, which is what I purchased. So I think I worked it out. I think I worked it out so that I knew how many yards of this that I had. The question is now, I mean, the one she's using for this is like a variegated yarn, so it's changing color all the time. I just don't know. Obviously we're starting at the really thin end and getting bigger and bigger, and I don't know whether I should just use number 1 until it's gone, or if I should just do 1 stripe per each. But I feel like if I do 1 row of each, I'm not going to get to that size. So I kind of feel like I need to just use up each yarn and flow into the next one, regardless of if it's in the middle of a row or not. But I'll have to look that back up again, because that's my only concern with doing it this way, is that this is not made for mini skeins. So I'm excited to get that started. One thing I haven't done before is the blocking. I did order some wool wash for the Christmas blanket, but I don't have any of those blocking mats, and I don't know that I really want to invest in as many as it's going to take for me to block that blanket. So I think what I want to do is just, you know, wash it and lay it out on the bed with some towels underneath it, and hopefully that will be enough to kind of block it out into a rectangular shape when it's done. This would be easier to block, but yeah, I don't know if I want to invest in the whole blocking board thing. We'll see later. Okay, I want to give you guys an update on this. So after all my due diligence of doing the video, printing out the PDF version of the instructions because I don't have the kit yet, and starting on the border, of course, I ran out of yarn. So the confusing thing about the border is I have to establish the right number of stitches per side here. And in the instructions they tell you, okay, for stripe number 30, do like 9 stitches, and because you're kind of just fitting them in between here. They don't really have like a real place to live. So I started following the instructions, and then I was like, well, this is stupid. I'll just naturally flow and see how many stitches I get for each stripe here, because it wasn't really working out for me. But then I realized, oh, the reason they had me count these stitches is because guess what? There's a whole other side I have to do with these same number of stitches in these same places. So, oh, I wish I had paid better attention to that and done that better, but we are where we are at this point. I still have all these little pieces kind of unraveling here. It drives me crazy. So that's what happened there. And then I had to go through, you know, it was like midnight and I'm working on this over the 3-day weekend. And then I had to go through and count each side and make sure I had the right number of stitches per side. And then I figured, oh, well, this is going to be the same number of stitches for that top, you know, the top, as it is for the bottom, because, you know, it's the same width the whole way through. Well, it wasn't. I don't know if it's just the way I crocheted these in or what, but they're different. So I had to go through and count all of these and then mark them. And because I had already gone up the side by the time I rejoined here at the top, you know, I couldn't really take all of this out and go back to this bottom here and redo it. So I counted the number of stitches and it was like 10 off. So I figured, okay, I'll do a few increases, which I've done, and do 2 stitches in one spot. And then I'll do a few decreases here on the bottom until we get up to the right number of stitches. So that's where I was at when I ran out of yarn, and I was like, well, it's after midnight. I'm done counting. Let's just put this down for the night and pick it back up again, you know, in the morning. And so I went to my yarn stash that has all of this yarn in it, all the leftover yarn. And of course, the one color I don't have is white. Wah, wah. So I'm going to have to wait until I get the actual kit in the mail sometime by the end of the month to be able to finish this. And hopefully I'll remember what the heck I was doing with the increases and decreases. And I wrote down the numbers in my phone notes. So hopefully we'll get that all squared away so that it is square, you know, when I do the rest of the rows. The good news is because I joined the TL Yarn Crafts Facebook group, I think it's TLYC Facebook group or something like that. I can't remember what it's called. I'll put a link to it in the description if you're interested in joining. But somebody had shown a crab stitch, which is interesting. So you know how I was like, I really don't want to do this. You know, they're gonna have me do another one of these reverse stitches all the way across the all the way around the blanket. I don't really want to do all that over again. So I saw this crab stitch, and I think she's got a tutorial for it. And I was like, well, I could do the crab stitch instead. It kind of still has the same ridge effect. So I'll take a look at that and see if that's a good alternative for me. So, I mean, basically I've got how many rows left here? 1, 2, 3, 4. So I've basically got 4 more border rows to make here, and I'm done with this. So I was a little disappointed that I wasn't going to get that done before I started my Advent shawl. So let's take a look at the Advent shawl. And this is going to be a huge blanket by the time we're done here. And then we're basically packing it up to use for next Christmas. So I don't even get to enjoy it right away unless I just want to put it on my couch for a couple of weeks just to put it on my couch. I'm kind of over Christmas at this point. Okay, and now we have our Advent shawl. Yay! So I had to do some finagling here and figure out, I was really worried with this whole like length of color A and color B, and I'm trying to figure out, you know, her color A and color C together, which is basically going to be my mini skeins, totaled 650 yards. So that's basically what the pattern calls for. My mini skeins are 20 grams each, but I don't have yardage for that. So I asked her Facebook group for help, and they said usually DK minis are about 40 to 45 yards each. So that's great news. Unfortunately, that means that I have way too many for this. So I figured out that if I wanted to make the pattern as written, I would need 18 of my minis, and I went through and picked out 18 of the minis, and I don't know, I'd rather just use all of them because I don't know what I'd be using like 7 minis for in another project. And then I figured out, wait a minute, I went to go get a crochet hook and realized, oh, she's saying that she used an I crochet hook for the sport weight and the DK versions that she made of this in the video. And I was like, if I use a smaller crochet hook, the project should take up more yarn before I get to the right size, which means that I could use all of my minis. So that was the plan. I started with a G crochet hook because that's what I was using on those shawls that have the that have this DK weight yarn. But I did a few rows of that and it looked way too small. So I moved up to the H needle, which is usually my favorite, and not just because my name starts with an H, and got this going. Unfortunately, I deleted the footage. I recorded the whole thing of making this from the beginning, and then I moved it over to my computer, and I had one file that I had messed up and stopped recording, and then I had the other file with like all of this footage. And when I moved them over, I said, oh, this is the one I don't need, and I deleted it straight off of the memory card, which you cannot recover it once you've deleted it off the memory card, unfortunately. So that footage is lost, so we're just gonna, I'm not ripping this out and starting over again. You guys know what it looks like when you start a new project. But this is basically the shape. Let me zoom in so you can see it better. So it's taking shape nicely. It kind of has this boomerang shape right now, and then we're just gonna whoosh increase from there. But it's really pretty. I really like the texture that it gives. So I'm gonna get up to 58 stitches with this, and then we're gonna start layering in the marshmallow color in there. But I think that's gonna be good for using up all of my skeins. I guess I just gotta play it by ear. I don't know what it's gonna turn out like. I guess I'll just see. The other option I can do, which is what somebody suggested on the Facebook group, is that I can just make this go wider, 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 and just have a bigger shawl in the end than she did. I've never really made a shawl. I mean, this looks like a pretty big shawl already. Or I could do less rows of this end here and just have a couple of rows instead of this many rows. So I'm just gonna play it by ear and see what happens and go from there. But this is a pretty easy pattern. I mean, just building this boomerang shape is a little confusing because you're repeating row 3 and 4, and row 3 and 4 are very similar. So I just kind of put a marker at the end of row 4 so that I know, okay, that's row 4, so that I know I'm going, this is row 3, you know, that I'm going back on. when I'm doing it. And then, you know, eventually I'll just go, oh, this is the row where I do the increases, and this is the row where I do the 2 single crochets together. So I'm sure I'll just get the hang of it in a while. And then once I get this top up to 58 stitches, then we start on the second section, which I think is just a series of single crochets and half double crochets. So it's a pretty easy pattern. I highly suggest this. And the other thing that's very cool, perfect timing for me, is that Tony from TL Yarn Crafts is doing a crochet along for the beginning of this year. So I'll put it up right now. And basically, if you want to join along, I'll put a link to her blog post about it. But basically, from the end of this month, I think it goes for 4 or 5 weeks. From the 23rd, maybe it starts. But you're basically picking out any TL Yarn Crafts pattern, and she has a few free patterns in her blog that you could pick from. You could buy one, whatever. You could do a kit. And you're just going to be taking pictures as you go of what you're working on and posting it on Instagram with the hashtag, and then she's going to pick a winner each week, and she has some beautiful prizes. So I am very excited that I just so happened to stumble upon this, and I'm making one of her patterns in the beginning of the year here. And you don't have to finish the pattern by the end of the 5 weeks. You just have to post pictures of your progress as you go. So I'm very excited about that. And if you're interested in joining, I would say go ahead and join. Like, pick out a pattern and we can all work on this together. So very excited. I'm going to continue working on this. It goes pretty fast even with my smaller needle. It's weird though, because I'm so used to using the G hook with this, that this hook feels huge for this yarn. The yarn just feels so skinny compared to the hook. And I don't know how you would use an eye hook with this, other than, I guess it would just have more holes than this. You know what I mean? I guess, yeah, it would just have more holes. But this is going pretty fast. Obviously, it would be even faster with the eye hook. And I'm sure as I get used to this, you know, I will just know that, oh, this is the end of row 3, and I'm going to do the 2 single crochets in the last 2 stitches. Sometimes you just get going and you forget, oh, I'm at the last 2 stitches already. So then, yeah, at the end of this, I'm going to do 2 single crochets in this stitch, and then 2 single crochets in the last stitch. Oh, it's hard to get that second loop on there. Ooh, it's really hard. I'm a pretty tight crocheter, so it doesn't surprise me that that's tight. I'm going to chain 1 to turn. It's kind of weird because you do the 2 increases there, and then you also do 2 in this one. So that's how we're getting the boomerang shape. In that. And then just single crochets. So this is pretty easy so far. I am loving the way this color looks. I'm still on the first mini skein. It's about halfway through, I think. So yeah, I love the variation in this color. I think I want to do a whole green blanket. You know, I still have that granny sunburst blanket that I'm working on. And I think what I'm going to do I was originally going to make that for our bed and make it be a cow king size, but I think what I'll do is I'll shrink that down and make it a couch blanket, because I'd like to have a few couch blankets to rotate. And it's such a beautiful, bright color scheme that I think it would just brighten up the living room a lot. And I could also use it on the back of the couch when I'm talking to you guys as a backdrop. So I think that'll be good. which means I'll just have to go through my little grid and reduce the number of granny squares that I need to do. I also have a big stack of those granny squares ready to put together. So I need to start joining those together, taking them off the blocking block so that I can put new ones on there and get back to that project. And that would be a beautiful kind of spring summer blanket to have on the couch. Okay, so I think I'm going to end it here for this Yarny update. I just had so much footage from the bags that I figured I'll just make this an extra video. I am already at an hour on the bag one, and I haven't even done like an outro yet and shown you the bags. So sorry about that. I'll have to get better at explaining myself without going on for hours. And I don't want each of these videos to be that long. So maybe I'll have some more Yarny updates for you later on, just so that we keep these things separate. That might be a good idea. Okay, so I hope you have a wonderful week ahead, and thanks for joining me this week. I really appreciate it. Love you. See you next time.